with regards to Diwali, because I believe that was the topic that we decided.
Yes.
So, is there any particular breed that is more anxious or scared of sounds, smoke, or is it common for everyone?
Yeah, okay. How I would look at it is there are breeds, let's say guarding dogs that are specifically bred for guarding, mastiffs, and even sometimes in German shepherds, Rottweilers, that sort of thing. Smaller dogs, alarm dogs like terriers, etc., that are highly sensitive to sounds, etc., around them. The ones, it strikes me as logical that the ones with the higher sensitivity to sounds and their circumstances would be more susceptible to this sort of thing. Right? So that is how I look at it, that they would be a little more susceptible to this sort of thing.
Yeah, that's usually how it works. I mean, the breeds with like a higher hearing frequency, the higher the frequencies they can hear, the
Yeah.
more they are likely to be startled by the sounds. Or, of course, like even something that's like really, really far off, you wouldn't know why they're scared about it,
Yeah.
but they can hear it, and that's why they're scared.
Also,
So it also depends a lot on the anatomical part of the ears, basically. I
yeah.
think let's get into this later on when we,
No, it is so. Yeah, once we deal with the questions, but in
yeah.
if we want to start, let's start. If we can start talking about the causes, why it is biologically, and since you said,
Anatom.
yeah, hold on. Since we said biologically, what happens? Basically, the point is this: they hear a far, far higher frequency range than us, right? Dogs in general, cats also, but dogs to a far higher extent. Canidae, canines, whatever, they have a far higher range of frequency, lower frequency as well as higher frequency. What that also, most people think, jada frequency sunai deta hai, but what that also does is, in a particular range of frequencies, it makes them even more sensitive, right? Like we are sensitive in a particular range, and we can hear a particular range of frequencies, but somewhere in the middle of that range is where we are highly sensitive to particular sounds, right? Imagine 400 times that for dogs, right? 400 times more sensitive, at least the smell is 400 times more sensitive. I'm extrapolating, but hundreds of times more sensitive than us in a particular range of sounds. So sudden loud sounds, startling sounds, things like that, they can create reactions and effects in dogs that, actually are quite common to see during that time, which is also why you see reactions during explosive sounds, sudden and explosive sounds, rather than you don't see that much of fear reaction during, shall we say, Ganpati festival, right? That's a loud festival too, right? It's at least in my observation, the number of dogs reacting badly to that, because it's a continuous sound. It comes for a while. It's not an explosion. It's not a sudden sound. And it probably doesn't fall into those frequencies, the higher sensitive frequencies. So yeah, it need not be just Diwali, but Diwali is particularly difficult because think about it. If you imagine that you suddenly woke up somewhere and you had no idea what Diwali was and you hear these sounds outside, you'd think there was a war going on, right? So that's at least my take on it is that.
Yeah, and that does make sense because they don't know what's happening. And like these are all very man-made concepts, like festivals and bursting firecrackers, etc. And just the fact that they are constantly like, okay, like even in Diwali, even for like extended periods, they're just like constantly, there's like this constant stimulus that is sort of like affecting them, and they don't know what's happening. So that causes the anxiety. And also what I was speaking from the anatomical point of view, their ears are designed differently. They are designed for better hearing. They have like around 18 muscles in their ears, so they can actually, like point their ears to like certain
various directions.
Directions to hear better.
Yeah.
So even the length of their ear canal is like much longer than ours. So that kind of like finely tunes the sound that reaches their, well, the cochlea basically. So that kind of causes, that's the reason why they can hear these higher frequencies, and that's also the reason why these sounds can affect them more than they do to us.
In an aside, they do the head tilt, the cute head tilt that you see.
Yeah. Just
You
those
have to look at
aeroplane
frequency.
ears that you see
Ears
in
are
videos.
they'll do the really
Yeah.
cute head tilt. That's them trying to hear you better, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where it actually starts, right? It starts
Yeah.
where, because of their sheer sensitivity to sound and how it works, it starts there. We now that we understand the cause, let's start. I would like to start getting into what do we do about it, right? What do we do about it? How do we deal with it? And off the bat, again, I want to place what from my own experience with my bunch of dogs that I've kept. My first few dogs were always scared, and until I was educated about it, my personal reaction was always to do something, to react, to engage the dog, to offer support, offer affection, offer whatever, right? Uh, and over time, as I kept more and more dogs, I learned that it is our behavior that affects them. That sometimes, especially when they're young, when you're starting young, when they're puppies, right? When the first Diwali comes along, right? When they're a few months old, etc. The best thing to actually do is nothing. I know that's a little bit of an oversimplification, but the best thing to do is nothing. To continue behaving as if there is nothing to fear or bother about, right? And allow the dog to see your reaction, right? Not react to the dog, not engage the dog as soon as they show some fear or come up to you and start shivering or try to find a place to hide or run away or any one of these reactions. The idea in the beginning that I have applied quite successfully is to do nothing, to actually to not engage the dog, to pretend to continue doing whatever I am doing as if there is nothing to fear. A few repetitions of this, and I have discovered that my dogs have usually calmed down to a fair extent. Right now, there's a failure rate in everything, as I had mentioned before. But this, in general, in my opinion, has worked. Doctor, do you have anything on that?
I actually agree with you on this because the more they're already stressed about something. They don't know the reason for why they're stressed. It's just like they're hearing something. They don't know what's happening. The more you coddle them, the more you fuss about it. Like you go and like you're like, oh, it's okay. What happened? Like if you are stressing out, they will take off of your energy. They are looking at you as their master, right? They are looking at you for comfort. And if you
Yeah.
yourself are, yeah, like if you yourself are anxious, then they're like, oh, the person who's supposed to protect me, who's supposed to look after me, they themselves are scared about something. So I think if there's good enough reason for me to be anxious as well. So I agree with Vasu. I think you have to be really calm. The first thing you have to do is calm yourself before you can help your pet in any way.
Yeah, and reacting in anger to the fools exploding crackers outside is generally counterproductive. Because as always, the dog will pick up on your behavior, right? So every time, it's not just what I mean to say is it's not just reacting to the dog. It's not just giving the dog attention, affection, or whatever. It's also expressing the stress of it going on outside in general. You call someone, you angrily text someone else, you tweet about it. Your dog senses that, right? Your dog senses that it is distressed, and therefore you are distressed, and therefore its distress is somehow valid, right? So basically, the point I try to make is the boom monster real. Like this is what you do as the dog, as the owner of the dog, as the human of the dog. You are the one who have made the monster real. The monster is not real. It's just noises outside. So the second you react to it, and it's, as I said again, I repeat, it's not just giving the dog attention at the time or giving the dog any kind. And negative attention is even worse. You are giving the dog positive attention and affection for being afraid, and at the same time you are stressed that the dog is afraid and are expressing it in your words or body language or whatever. This invariably has a negative effect and makes the thing worse.
Yeah, it can confuse them really.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, you're confusing the dog. You're giving a positive reinforcement for fear, and then you are behaving in a negative manner, right? So that actually can confuse the dog and enhance the anxiety. Now, having dealt with this is the passive method, right? This is the passive method. This is the children, the do nothing method, as I call it. But as I said, there is a failure rate to most things. As I said, there's a failure rate to most things, and in this, it invariably happens. I've met a lot of people, and in our group also, there are a lot of people who say it's already happened. Right? There was one question I want to just bring that. I know we're going to handle questions a little bit later, but there was one particular question of someone who had a 9-year-old German Shepherd who wasn't afraid when they were young and developed the fear later in life. Right? So it wasn't a puppy. It grew up not being afraid, as the question implies. And sometime along these 9 years later in life, the puppy got afraid. How do you deal with that? Are there more active methods? I mean, between doing nothing and, as we discussed, the pharmaceutical methods, what are the active training methods that people can employ? That's one. And then in another, to follow that up, I would also like to talk to you, Doc, about what can we do in the immediate future, right? For people who have never done any of these things or have never actively trained their dog to handle these situations, what do they do today when Diwali comes along? Or when all our festival seasons come along and everything is loud outside? What I'd like to discuss is what do they do?
Right. So basically you can call it desensitization.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are a few ways that you can implement these things, like desensitization and counter conditioning, basically. So initially you basically start off with just, creating like a safe space for them. So I will use my cat as an example. So whenever she gets scared, she just has this spot in the house. It's in our cupboard. We just keep it like slightly ajar so that she can go there whenever she's like, stressed out or just wants to chill a little bit in the day, whatever it is.
The safe space.
And we've just like stocked it up. Yeah. And we've stocked it up with like blankets and like her favorite blanket toy that she really likes. And that's where she kind of, that's the space that she uses to just retreat. So it's like her escape or like her comfort space, basically. So I would suggest that is like very important in times like these, or even otherwise, to be honest. Like even generally, it's good to have create this kind of space in your house for your pet. This is of course like this is after like failure of like the conditioning that we spoke about. Like if your pet is not reacting well to you ignoring them when they're getting anxious, like these methods are basically to be followed in case that does not happen, and that's completely fine. Sorry,
they're more interventional methods. They're your more active methods.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I just want to, for our viewers' sake, I just want to have a more explicit definition of desensitization and counter conditioning. Desensitization, and you can please correct me if I'm wrong. Desensitization is basically when you understand the stimulus, what particular stimulus there is that is causing these particular reactions, like fireworks in Diwali. We already understand that these are, and to desensitize, to reduce the dog's anxiety reaction or desensitize the dog to a particular stimulus or this particular sound. And counter conditioning is to take that further a little bit and change the dog's emotional reactions to this stimulus or other stimuli, correct?
Yeah, right. It's basically tricking your dog into thinking that whatever is happening, it's fine.
Yeah.
So, and sorry?
Or even a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's what, like, there are these certain ways that you can do it. Like I said, just create a safe space so that they can retreat. Another thing you can start off with is just sort of introducing these sounds to them at like a very lower decibel initially. So I'm just going to use my cat as an example for everything.
I'm actually
because it worked really.
Yeah, we're kind of focusing on dogs. Of course, other pets, furry pets may also have these issues. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what I would do initially, like as a kitten, she used to be really scared of these sounds. So what I initially started doing was I would just play music, any music at like a low volume, and whenever she was like sitting in the room with me, I would just play it. And then eventually she got kind of used to it, and then I increased the volume. And that's where I got her used to just like hearing sound or like volume at like a certain decibel. And then eventually I started just introducing like fireworks sounds or like other sounds that she was scared of, like suppose the bell ringing or I think Basu was telling me about his dog being really scared about like the fumigator yesterday.
Yeah, the
Like we were
fuming.
talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just play those sounds again. Like I would start really, really slow, like at a very lower decibel, and then eventually over time, like increase the exposure and then just like get her used to those sounds. And now she's completely fine. Like she barely uses her safe space to go only when she's like extremely stressed, or only if she's like overstimulated due to like long exposures, like sometimes there's just like hours and hours of firecrackers. That's the only time she actually uses her safe space.
Hmm.
So that's actually worked really great for me. I think it's worked great for you as well, right, Vasu?
Yeah, so no, I got to say, again, I'm back to the failure rates. I always mention that because even with Cujo, after he's my 13th dog, as I've said before,
Hmm.
even with him, the fumigator sound, for example,
Hmm.
you can find fireworks sounds online.
Hmm.
Right? And you can find a lot of buzzy sounds like chainsaws or roadwork sounds, etc. You can find a lot of them online. But there is this particular frequency to this fuming, and I know we've all heard it, right? There is this machine that they walk around and it turns the DDT into vapor and they spray it, and the mosquitoes supposedly die because of it. It's not. I've tried other sounds like that. I've looked on YouTube. I've looked on SoundCloud, etc., etc. Played the sound. None of them have the
Hmm.
same effect. I don't even know whether it's the same sound that being played through a speaker, an Amazon Alexa speaker or any other speaker is having the same effect. But yeah, this is one thing that I have failed on. He is still at 10 years of age, still terrified of that sound that he has been since for the last 9.5 years that I've kept him. So there is a failure rate. He sleeps in the balcony during Diwali. He doesn't care about the drums or anything during Ganpati festival or now Navratri, where we live. There's at least 3 or 4 dandiyas going on around all the time. And he is entirely unbothered. He knows not to go near the fire. But it's just this one thing that is, it's so there is, if you failed and you've not succeeded in getting rid of a particular thing. And fireworks is the most common thing. So statistically, it's most probable that you could fail at getting rid of your dog's fear of fireworks. But uh, you're going to fail at some point. That does not mean, however, that you don't try to do these things, that you jump direct,
Yeah,
more extreme methods, right? That you don't try. You
exactly.
try these things. First, try to train your dog. First, try to habituate
Hmm.
and make changes in your dog's behavior via you and your lifestyle, right? Your behavior, your lifestyle. These are the way to make changes in your dog's behavior. And it's not the easiest thing, but I can assure you that 9 times out of 10, it's successful. There is a failure rate, but it's a low failure rate.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's important to be really patient with them because, again, like, yes, they do understand your emotions, but they don't understand the reason behind it, right?
Yeah.
So you have to understand, you have to be patient with them. You have to be patient even with reinforcing these things with them.
Yeah.
So that's why we use, like, why do we give them treats? Like, we're trying to use the whole positive reinforcement thing that, like, yes, okay, you did that great. Yes, you get a treat or you get like a play time in the house, you get to play with your favorite toy, and you can actually use this to sort of condition them even with respect to just reacting well to these sounds, just like while you are introducing them to like just playing something at like a lower volume starting out, you could just, while they're in the room and they did not react like in a uh like anxious way to it, you could just treat them, like give them their favorite toy or just play time in the house or something like that. But in the house itself, do not put them into a habit of like,
There's a question. Himanshu has asked a couple of questions on the chat window. There's one particular
okay.
question here that connects to what you're saying right now, so I want to just bring that in. He's asked, what
Mm-hmm.
signs should I look for to determine if my dog is experiencing anxiety or fear during the festivities? Right now, this is, of course, I would like to answer. I would like, in fact, you to answer first that what are the signs to look for. There is also, I would also like you to speak after that on what is the observing the difference between negative reactions and positive reactions, so you can ignore the negatives and reward. You just said you have to reward the positive reactions. So how do you judge that my pup, or how does one judge that my pup is anxious, afraid, etc., or is reacting positively to this? If you could just explain that, what are the common anxiety reactions or fear reactions, and what are the positives that you want to see and encourage positive?
Okay, so the most common reaction to fear that we see in pets is the first thing you can see is them just like tucking their tail in between their hind legs,
Yeah.
and sort of just dropping their ears
Mm.
and just lowering their stance in general, because they're scared. They don't know what's happening. So in the wild, it's always there. Like, it's a survival thing that you have to, the lower you are, the closer you are to the ground, the lesser you are in danger. So
You
that's their
level
first
your
reaction.
visibility.
Like, the smaller you make yourself,
Yeah.
the less obvious you are to the prey. So
Yeah.
they don't know what the sound is, right? So this thing is, oh, like, who's trying to attack me? So I just have to make myself smaller. So that's the first reaction that you can expect from them. They could try to, just go under like a chair or a table, look for hiding space. My cat used to just come and like sit between my legs because she would look at me as like a safe space. She would come to me. There are adverse reactions as well. There is a fear aggressive reaction that we see in dogs where they just like start barking, and because they want to establish themselves as like dominant to whatever the stimulus is or whatever the danger
Reacting
is,
aggressively to fear.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the fear aggression,
Human
it
trait.
just they sorry.
I said it's a common human trait as well.
It is exactly. So yeah, like, when if someone's attacking, you attack back, and that's what they are trying to do with like either barking or growling, something like that. So again, all of these things, it requires a lot of training as well. Like, you have to start identifying these signs early on. And these signs do start off when they're a puppy. And when they're a puppy, it's kind of harmless. You're like, oh, like, he's just barking, or, just growling. It's fine. Like, his teeth does not hurt if he tries to bite me. But that's when you have to start training them, like when you start identifying these signs early on. It's really important to start identifying. You have to pay a lot of attention to them from the start, because like children, like, that's when their reactions, or that's where their personality is growing, right? And you have to help them become less anxious about things. You have to introduce them to things in like a positive manner, or you have to correct their behavior very early on to avoid these things later. Because I think, just like you were talking about the German Shepherd who was like 9 years old, okay, fine, like, they did not have a problem for a very long time, but there are people who just face this over like the lifetime of a dog, and they just don't know how to handle, and then the dog is stressed, the family is stressed, and it's just like a stressful time for everyone, and that's not great for the dog either.
Each other, the dog stressing.
Yeah, exactly.
Stressed as well. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, and going off of that, the positive signs that you would see that your dog is reacting well would be that they're not reacting at all. That they're just calmly sitting, or of course, they will be curious where the sound is coming from, but their immediate reaction is not to go into stress, or, react in like a very volatile manner, just immediately to the stimulus. Like, they will take their time, understand, they'll try to see what you are feeling, and then eventually, like, these are the signs basically. Then this will again take time. If your dog is anxious, they're fearful, you will have to show a lot of patience. And
done it when the dog is a pup.
Yeah.
Let's face it, a lot of people haven't, right? Because I don't want this to become something that, yes, I am of the opinion that it is almost invariably the human's fault, whatever the problem is, right? Either they didn't understand the breed, or they didn't do the training, or they didn't get. But I don't want to be, in a position where we cast blame, right? Yes, you should have done this when the dog was a puppy or the cat was a kitten. You should have done it at that time. But it is a natural reaction when you see a child scared or a puppy scared or whatever, to give attention and affection and to offer protection is a natural reaction, right? So, in a lot of ways, what you are saying and what we also, a lot of us also recommend and how it's done is a counterintuitive thing, right? Your intuition is, the human intuition is to immediately offer. We don't do this with children, right? And it is a fact that I don't have any of my own, but a child, I've observed this, a child falls down on the ground. If there is no one to give immediate attention, most often the child gets up, dusts itself off, and goes back to play. But if there is someone to ask what's wrong, right, the probability that the child will cry is higher, right? So it's very similar to that. If you haven't, there is no, it is not, I don't, before we start saying that, oh, it is, yes, it is, because you didn't, I'm kind of wandering off here, sorry. But because you didn't do it at a particular time, it doesn't mean you can't still do it. So the idea that people say is fine, you didn't do it at that time. We don't want to be in a position where we cast blame, but you can still do things about it and make your puppy. Right now, as we were moving down the points, I think we came to increasing intensity gradually over time, right? Increase the thing. Now, what part, when I just want you to restate the part where you said about once you see the positive reactions, you have to reward those, right? Once you see the dog, once the tail comes out from between the legs, shall we say, or the ears get back up and the back is straight again, and the dog appears more confident, then you offer affection and then you offer positive reinforcement of some kind. This is the point of what you were saying?
Yes, it's correct. And basically you can just give them a treat, or you can let them play with their favorite toy, or just do like their favorite activity around the house. I would say that this has to be sustainable. You can't just, take them out for playing or something like that, because you can't implement this in case of like times when it's stressful outside. So if you're conditioning them a certain way and it's not feasible in certain situations, then it's not a sustainable way of, like, it's not a sustainable system of rewarding them. So you have to keep that in mind as well.
You have to do
and
it.
In
a disciplined manner.
And basically, and it has, all of this has to be very gradual. And since now we have a little bit of time, before Diwali comes in, I would suggest that, you just start off a little bit right now. Like, it's fine that you did not train your puppy earlier. That's completely okay. You probably did not have the information available. But now that you know this, I would encourage everyone to just, start off as soon as possible. And it's where these are like very easy things that you can do. Like, just like while working at home, you can just play some sounds at home. You are constantly interacting with your pet while you're at home. So you can just implement these things constantly around them. And once they get used to it, it will be normal behavior for them. It won't be something different. Like, it's conditioning, basically. You're tricking them into thinking that it's a positive thing. So I feel like it would work, but again, it has to be gradual. You have to show a lot of patience. You have to be patient yourself, and like Vasu said, just like not immediately react to something that you see. So
But the other, if you, as the doctor has said, if you go through the blog which he posted here, as well as on the thing, subscribe to our blogs. What you will find there is a fairly detailed level of instruction, very specific instruction on what to do and how to deal with it in terms of training, as well as what I would like to get into with the doctor right now about what to do specifically now during Diwali itself. Suppose you haven't had the time to go through this. Suppose you've not, for one reason or the other, you've not had the time to actually implement the training phase of it, right? The conditioning, the counter conditioning, and the desensitization phases. You've not had the time to implement it completely, or there are other reasons for which your pup or cat may not be accepting of this, or it may not have fully taken effect. What do you do right now?
So there are a few ways that you can still sort of help them to alleviate the anxiety that they're facing. I think, Vasu, I think you've mentioned thunder shirts in the blog, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, So thunder shirts are basically this like specialized clothing. They apply like gentle pressure to the
Yes.
dog's body, like especially like around the thoracic and the abdominal region.
Yeah.
And this can have like a calming effect because it basically feels like a hug. And hugs are comforting, so that's why they can feel that comfort.
So it is because the thunder shirt, or and I've seen, I've written on the blog also that there are videos online. You can see how to make one. But this gentle pressure on the torso, it makes them more comfortable because, as you said, hugs are comfortable. There is a sort of, then is it a myth that dogs don't like to be hugged? I've heard this.
I think every pet is different.
Mhm.
Um, Again, like certain humans prefer their personal space,
Yeah,
it's the same with dogs.
yeah.
So it again, it's very individually you can go with like pets.
So you have to
So
try.
thunder shirts, the basic thing is providing comfort, right?
Yeah.
So dogs who do not appreciate the hugging part or just like being applied like pressure to their sides while being comforted, what pets also like to do is the hiding part of it, right? What you can do is just like create sort of like a blanket fort, not exactly a blanket fort, but just like use their usual blanket, allow them to sort of get comfortable in it, hide their face,
Yeah.
because this again makes them feel that they are away from danger and they're hiding from whatever is trying to attack them, right? So this just covering their face, covering their body, it can have the same effect as the thunder shirt
Mhm.
with dogs who do not appreciate being touched a lot or pet a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So of course there are other things that I have seen to good effect. There are certain kinds of music that work, right? That go on the background if you play certain kinds of music, certain aromas of certain herbs, which
Hmm.
like chamomile, etc., are used in diffusers. Which brings me to a couple of other questions that I have seen, and I'll be going back to Ritu's question as well,
Hmm.
connected to this. Ah, yeah, she's responded. Ritu, you can actually speak up also. Uh, it's all right. We're very welcome to join the discussion. Unmute yourself and say it.
Yeah, yeah. This is what I have typed is what I wanted to say. Is very difficult with him. He is now like almost 9.5 years. When he was young, you wouldn't believe he never bothered. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night because of a loud firecracker being burst. He would like look at me rather nonchalantly. Hey, why are you worried? I'm there. So he would be like that when he was young. I'm talking about when he was 1 or 2 years old. Even when he was like 5 or 6, he was all right. But this past 2 3 years, it is so bad. Whether it is thunder, whether it is firecrackers, nothing helps. So you were talking about this thunder shirt. Now I tried looking for it in various places or sites all over the net, but you don't really get the stuff that they show, not in our country. Like if you are buying
Mm-hmm.
from Amazon abroad, there they'll sell, but in India they don't sell. And pet shops also, they've never heard of what thunder shirts are. So
Mm-hmm.
there was a site I found out where they said that you take a long strip of cloth and you like cross like make crosses around his body. They showed how to do it.
Yeah.
I tried doing that, but it made no difference whatsoever to him. Then I got this thing. It's a like a shrug kind of a thing which you put over the ears. That should they said it would help, but he's like he was getting more worked up. Why are my ears shut like that? And then I found that his head was warming up. So basically nothing helps with him. And off late I have noticed we had a period of monsoon, so at that point of time, even the smallest sound of thunder, which was probably like miles and miles away, that also was agitating him. So I really don't know what to do. So what he does is doesn't find places to hide, because there's actually no place in the house for him to hide. He's so big. He can't get under beds. The beds are pretty low, and he can't hide under chairs or anything. So what he does is that suppose there are suitcases kept somewhere against the wall, he'll try climbing on the suitcases, and he ends up hurting himself. I don't know what he thinks climbing on the suitcase will do to him. But this is the problem. It's like he just doesn't know what to do with himself. And it's whenever there is like these firecrackers and stuff, or if there is rain and thunder in the night, you can be 100% sure I'll be awake the whole night with him. He'll not sleep. He will not allow any of us to sleep also. What is the solution?
What does he do? Does he bark and wake you up, or
No, he doesn't bark. What he does is basically sometimes he whines a little, and he just, like I said, he tries getting on to impossible places. He tries climbing here, there, and then he wants to get out of the room and go to the terrace. And why would you want to go to the terrace? Sometimes I've tried that out also. So he goes to the terrace, then he pees there. He has a spot on the terrace where he pees. So he'll pee, and then he will come back again. But he has to go to the terrace once. But he wants to do this again and again and again. A whole night I cannot keep taking him to...
Two things. My dog is 10, and he has the urination, the needing to pee reaction.
Right.
Is one of the reactions he has to the fumigator, even today. Right? We are in the house and that particular sound starts. His only need is to go down. And he'd go down, he'd go out one gate, pee a few times, come back through the other gate and come back home and be calm after that. If the sound is still going on, he's still panicking. Right? But yeah, the going repeatedly to pee is a fairly familiar fear reaction for a lot of, especially, I don't know, doctor, you can correct me on that, big dogs especially. I've not seen it so much in the little ones because maybe I've not observed them so much, but shepherds and a Rottweiler. I had a friend who had a Rottweiler who used to get afraid of fireworks and need to pee. When he was a puppy, he would pee in the house. If there was properly housebroken, but he would pee. So it's a normal reaction. The other thing I will ask you, how do you react? When did you ever see something like this and start? Because from what you tell me, your dog is actually very protective of you.
Yeah, that initial years he was like that. Well, that I try hugging him, I try sitting up with him when he's like, he'll get on the bed 20 times, get on, get off, get on, get off. So when he's on the bed, I sit beside him, I try to hug him. He's okay with hugging at other times, but at this time he's like, no, don't hug me. No, it's okay. Just let me be. So if I try hugging him, he'll get off the bed. So I just let him be. If he just sits on the bed like that, he will sit at attention, if you know what I mean, not that comfortable sitting position. So he sits there, I sit up with him. Then I see that, okay, he's just looking out of the window and he's just like, the window has the curtains drawn and everything, but he's just sitting there and he's just trying to listen or what. And at night, there's nothing to observe. So I just let him be. And then, sorry?
Senior dog bhi hai, 9 saal ka, you say he's 9+.
Yes, So anyway, so he sits there, and then after some time when I just don't do anything, I'll just let him be. He then gets back to his own spot in his own bed, and then he lies down. Maybe by then the thunder has stopped a little, or maybe it's rumbling somewhere in the far off distance. So he calms down a little. Again, if there is a noise closer by, again he gets up. So again he's restless. Now, whole night, it's so difficult also. I got to go to work the next day. So as much as I can, I stay up with him. But then after a point of time, I give up. Now you do what you want. I can't help further.
Now, when you give up and you go to sleep and leave him, does he calm down? Is he all right after that?
I suppose he finds there's nothing else to do, and then he just settles down after some time.
So as I said, I have not observed this firsthand, but the next time this happens, right? Or you could just try it actively. You could play these sounds and see how he reacts and change your reaction to it. Just as a test, you could play the sound and, the thunder sounds, of course, thunder and lightning sounds you'll find on online quite easily. Loudly or as doctor said, at a lower volume to begin with, and observe his reaction. And try to not react yourself. Right? Try to not engage his anxiety. See how that works.
But you know what? He's so smart. He'll know these are all recorded sounds and these are not really happening.
It's trial and error. I won't be surprised if a dog can make out the difference between a live sound and a recorded sound. It will not surprise me at all. But I'm just saying, try this out. And when the time comes, when the fireworks, you can try it out with fireworks, because if you're
Mhm.
afraid of them also, you can try it out with fireworks as opposed to thunder, and see
Mhm.
how the reaction is and see how your reaction is. Back off, don't give him any attention. See what happens. If you continue to
Okay.
behave as it is normal, you ignore him, don't make eye contact. As you
Mhm.
said, they're very smart. And there is a theory that says they literally evolved bigger eyes
Mhm.
because of their interaction with humans. As compared to wolves, dogs have much bigger eyes. If you
Right.
right, so literally they evolved those puppy dog eyes to manipulate you. Right. So if my suggestion is try that out a little bit, back off, and don't give him any attention, ignore it. Behave as if everything is normal, see how that works. See if he reacts properly to that. If he reacts properly, reward that, as the doctor said.
Mhm.
Right. The other thing, of course, he is a senior dog, right? And as
Right.
they get older, their habits change. It becomes more time consuming, if not more difficult, to change their habits and their behavior, right? As
Mhm.
they get, just like us, as they get older and older, it takes a little more effort. It's not impossible, that much I'll tell you, but it takes a little more effort. I would suggest that you try out some of this. And beyond that, you asked a particular question about a pill. I'm not remembering the name.
Envito coming pills.
Yeah, I would. What's your take on that, Dr. Arun?
I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just asking.
One minute. I'll just have to check what the ingredients are
Yeah.
because I haven't used this. Just give me a minute.
This is what my vet had suggested after I told him
Mhm.
that
Did
remedy
it
didn't
did it
work.
work for you though? Did it work for you? Did he take it and
No, I have
was he
not yet
better?
tried it. I have not yet tried it. I just asked for this a couple of weeks back. I had taken him for
Mhm.
his vaccine. So then he suggested
Right.
you could try this out. But then I have not yet purchased it, and it's not right now available in my local pet shop. They said after the
Mhm.
festival is over, they will be able to get it. So at this moment, I'm like in a quandary what to do right now, because end of festival means again fireworks and this and that. So I'm from Kolkata, so we are having Durga Puja right now. So
Ah,
it's going to get over on Tuesday, and this pet shop says they won't be able to get it before Tuesday. I tried Amazon; that also is showing me end of the month. So it's basically pointless ordering from anywhere right now.
Mm.
So by the time all this, Visarjan and everything takes place, it's going to be a chaos. I know, and I'm kind of dreading those couple of evenings. So I don't know
mhm.
what to do. So are you suggesting that I should give it a shot and see? Because then after that there will be Diwali also. So then I can get the pills.
How has he been reacting to the firecrackers currently? Like with, I
Right
think
now there
Durga
are
Puja,
no
I think.
crackers. Right now there is
Okay.
nothing as such. So
Maybe
Mm-hmm.
he
dhol, baja, वगैरह वगैरह probably.
Mm.
so he's okay at this moment. He gets a little
Mm-hmm.
startled loud noises as he's aging. Loud noise of any kind
Yeah.
startles like us only. So that's okay. He realized okay, it's nothing much. So he calms down again within a few seconds.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
And
firecrackers.
this is
So,
standard for a German. This is a protection animal, a herding and protection animal. It is livestock. This is standard. As
mm,
in the beginning of the discussion, we had talked about someone had asked, are certain breeds more susceptible to this? I would expect a German Shepherd to be more susceptible to this, because this is a breed is a dog selectively bred to guard things, to protect
Mm,
things, to be protective of, and they do imprint to one human, which is you, right?
mm,
And yeah, this is not abnormal at all. The reaction of, reacting to sounds, what we are looking at, what we'd like to look at is the particular fear reaction, right? The alertness, the little bark,
mm,
then calming down immediately. This is fairly normal behavior. What I want to address is when the fireworks or the thunder starts and he gets more nervous and he starts to whine, the tail goes down, the ears go back, that sort of thing, right? That's
mm.
the reaction that we want to address here. And
Right.
a little bit of the counter, if you go to the blog and read it, it'll explain how exactly counter conditioning and this thing is done. I would advise that you give it a shot, see if you can find, and pick one thing, right? The fireworks sound is the worst, right? In most cases, he may react to other loud sounds or music or whatever, but patake ki awaaz is the worst for these poor chaps. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So get recordings of those sounds and do the counter conditioning for a few days, for a week, and see what happens. Right? Worst case, of course, as I said, you can acquire the calming pills or various other, or maybe Dr. Aadra can recommend some alternative, pharmaceutical alternative, etc. But my thought would be, ये एक बार try करके देखो आप. Try the.
Okay.
You can't. Also, I think he's less scared of what's happening. And like Vasu said, he's more into like the getting into the whole protective mindset, because if he's trying to climb the suitcases, it means that he's probably trying to get to a higher place
Yeah.
to understand where the attack is coming from or something like that.
Yeah.
I would just like to confirm, does he try to go under the bed, like hide somewhere, or
No,
is he just trying to climb higher places?
no, he doesn't. There's no way he can. Even if there is space under the bed, he doesn't go under the bed. He looks for corners. He looks for higher places to climb. Like that, he does.
Yeah. So
Okay.
this may not just be fear reactions. He may be just
Protection.
he may be trying to know more and trying to and his senses may not be as sharp as they were before. Another thing that happens to all of us. So
that could be that could be causing a heightened fear reaction.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's a reaction.
So so you could try the counter conditioning techniques,
I will
etc.
do that.
If all of that does fail, since Envito is not particularly accessible to you right now, I think I think Super Tails has this thing called Furlix MD. It's basically like a mouth dissolvable paper strips kind of thing. You just put in their mouth, and then you have to do it like at least like an hour or two before,
Yes.
like the onset of firecrackers or something like that. Like if you're expecting rain, if you're expecting thunder, you can just give it like 1 or 2 hours before that.
I've
Also there's Angzo Care by Himalaya. Sorry?
Angzo Care.
Yeah, Angzo Care.
Wanted to ask, do you have any idea about this Virat Kohli Foundation? They have a calming pill also, which I saw was completely made of Ayurvedic ingredients. So do you have any idea about that company, Bark Out Loud?
Oh yeah, I think Forlix is Bark Out Loud, if I'm not wrong.
Yes. So
Just
do
a
you
minute.
think
It
that
is, right? So I can actually look it up for you and get back to you on the group about that. Is that okay with you?
Yes,
Yeah?
absolutely.
Okay.
All right, then I think that we can conclude right now. I just want to restate a few things. All dogs are unique, right? There is no one size fits all solution to any and all of these problems. You have to try things. You have to actually do the things that are required for the training and the counter conditioning, etc., etc. And with the right push, attitude, and discipline, they do work, right? 9 times out of 10, they do work. When they don't work, we have other solutions as well. Dr. Aadra is available to advise on those at any given time. And there are also, if you go to the blog, subscribe, shameless plug, subscribe to the blogs, you will actually find, unlike others, you will actually find explicit and detailed instructions on what to do and what to do when some things don't work, what the alternatives are, etc., in a short and hopefully fun format. Yeah. With that, I think that we can close today's little discussion. Doctor, thank you very much for your brain and involvement in this. Yeah. And whoever came, thank you guys. Thank you for coming. This was good. We will be putting the recording or at least clips of it on the group so you all can watch it. Thank you very much. I think we can end this now.
Thank you very much.
TGP,
Bye-bye.
close this.